First of all, can we just get an update on the situation as you see it on the Eastern Front with Russia?
Good morning to everybody again. And yes, the situation on the battlefield is really complicated. But what is important, it is under control. So the most active directions of attacks of the Russian Federation now is in the Donbas area. So the idea is to get to the administrative borders of Donbas. And moreover, without exception, every day and every night, Ukrainian cities and infrastructure objects are under permanent missile and drones attacks of the Russian Federation.
Does that mean that the counter-offensive, the push into Russia by Ukrainian forces has essentially failed?
It's not failed. Our actions in the Kursk region turned out to be really effective because the idea was first to disrupt the offensive of the Russian Federation planned on Kharkiv direction, and we succeeded here. The second was also to withdraw the Russian forces from Donbas direction in order to get to the Kursk direction, and in this sense we also succeeded. And as the president said, now Russians are trying to get back the control in Kursk region, and that again eases the pressure which we experience on Kharkiv direction and in Donbas direction.
A lot now hangs, I guess, on what your allies do to help you resolve this situation. You heard the results of the talks between our Prime Minister and the President on Friday. Were you disappointed?
No, frankly speaking, we are not disappointed because during this war, we already used to the situation when we were told at the beginning there would be no Western tanks. Then we were told there would be no firefighters F-16. And all these obstacles we came through. And this is just another thing, a stumbling block, which should tackle, and we will not be giving up. In September, it would be also the meeting between the President Zelensky and US President Biden in New York. And we believe that it would be another push. And in that sense, we're really looking forward to your country position, because usually UK is playing that role of a push forward. We believe that if there would be positive development on your side, then it will push another allies to do the same, to follow your suit.
Well, that's very interesting. Our Foreign Secretary said to me this morning that there is a debate on the topic of the permission to use the missiles in the way that President Zelensky wants. There's a discussion going on with allies. And it sounds to me as though you're rather optimistic about the outcome of that debate. You believe that you will, in the end, get permission to use the missiles in the way that you want. Will that come soon enough?
I believe that we will get the decision in the end. So, as I mentioned, there is always, unfortunately, stages in this war when allies are also crossing certain, red lines, so to say, for them. And I think that, the reality is quite obvious. We cannot fight effectively against the Russian Federation. We cannot defend our territorial integrity if our hands are tied up on our back. And this decision this restriction not to use long-range missiles on Russian military objects, I emphasize, this is something that actually very much limits our possibilities. Also, part of the discussion with NATO allies now is not only about lifting the ban as itself, but also about delivering more air defense system to Ukraine first. And the second also that we need our allies to stick to the terms of delivery of different weapons that they promised to us. Because this is, in many cases, this is not the case. When we hear the pledge and the delivery is actually implemented 2 or 3 months after, this is not acceptable.
Not acceptable. You sounded very confident that you will get to the right place in the end, but it's are you frustrated at the stages you're having to go through and length of time it's taking?
No, that's not frustration, but this is something that I see also in my capacity here in the headquarters. So many allies are agreed that another step in helping Ukraine and supporting it will lead to escalation. It will cross the red lines of Putin. But I think we all here are not to listen to Putin or became threatened, became a little frustrated by his threats. During these 2 years and a half, we heard a lot from Putin, and we heard a lot about red lines. I think the most important is to help Ukraine to win. And then it will also secure Euro-Atlantic space.
Do you have any sympathy at all then for some of those who in Washington, even perhaps here in London, who say that though they want to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine, they worry about Western powers and NATO powers being drawn into the conflict in an active way? And Mr. Putin's been pretty clear. He says that if Western weapons are used in the way that you want, he will then regard the NATO suppliers of those weapons as active combatants, with what then follows.
Maybe I will again repeat myself a bit, but I think we should not be blackmailed by what Putin is saying. He was also threatening, before we started our operation in Kursk region, he was also threatening that Russian territory is some kind of a red line for using the nuclear weapon. And it turned out to be just an empty blackmail. And in my also contacts with allies, I'm trying also to explain to them that political support is very important. But with political support, we cannot win this war. And if the stage of the war is intensified and more dynamic, this only solution is that they should provide more weapons to us. We are not asking to die for us, but the idea is that the Western world should help us to win. And we will do this with our own forces, but with your help.
Ambassador, one of the things that I think would be helpful to make clear is what, in your mind, winning this war constitutes. Does that mean a victory in which Russian troops withdraw from the territory they've occupied recently and the territory they occupied in 2014?
We are not only looking forward to the ceasefires itself, because also many partners, I think sometimes they mistaken themselves, believing that ceasefire and the withdrawal of the Russian troops will mean a victory and it will mean the end of the war. This is not true. So that's why President Zelensky is pushing forward for his 10 points peace formula, because we are talking about not only about ceasefire and liberating the territory which was occupied by the Russian Federation, but we are talking about also guarantees in place that will not make possible Russian aggression again. And this is also about the many agreements of security guarantees that we signed with NATO allies. This is all that the Western help we are building upon, and also for the future run. So together, we should elaborate a real plan of the end of this war. And at some point also to present it to the Russian Federation. And if there would be more than 100 countries supporting Ukraine plan of ending the war, then I believe it would be a durable and long-lasting solution to this war.
I see that. Lastly, sometimes President Zelensky, I think, sounds rather angry with the West. And he has said in the past that there is a danger, and I want to ask you if you identify with this, there is a danger that the West will support Ukraine enough to keep it in the war, but not enough to secure the victory of which you've just been speaking. Is there any part of you that worries that that's what is happening right now?
No, it's part of me also as a human, as a Ukrainian. Of course, we sometimes are really angry and frustrated that not everything that we want from our Western allies to give us to win is not, delivered. But in the end, we already sustained the 2 years and a half of this war, and we always, remember that this happened only also because of the Western support. So when we are talking about something that we are frustrated or not satisfied, we should bear in mind that what we start always with thanking to our partners that you are doing for us. And without your help, I'm absolutely convinced there would be no this 2 years and a half of our fighting against the Russian Federation. We need more? Yes, that's true. We need more. But at the same time, we do understand that this is not the NATO war. I do understand many allies who don't want to step in the conflict directly or NATO to step in. I mean, this is the reality, and we are trying to take it into account.
Ambassador, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for your time.